Have you ever spent hours studying for an exam only to forget almost everything the next day? It's one of the most frustrating feelings. You read every page, you highlight every important line, you even convince yourself that you finally understood it. But when it's time to remember, your mind suddenly goes blank. If this keeps happening to you, the problem probably isn't your memory, and it definitely doesn't mean you're not smart enough. Psychologists say something interesting happens when we study with only one goal: to memorize. The brain doesn't treat every piece of information as equally important. Instead, it constantly asks one simple question: will I need this again? If the answer feels uncertain, the brain quietly starts letting that information fade away. This is why reading the same chapter 5 times often feels productive, but a few days later, you remember almost nothing. This is where many students misunderstand learning. They believe that spending more hours with a book automatically means they'll remember more. But your brain doesn't measure effort, it measures meaning. Information that feels connected, useful, or emotionally interesting is stored much deeper than information you simply force yourself to memorize. Think about it for a moment. You probably remember conversations from years ago. You remember the lyrics of songs you haven't heard in months. You remember embarrassing moments from childhood without even trying. Yet, you forget what you studied yesterday. That's not because your memory is weak. It's because your brain naturally remembers what feels meaningful, emotional, or personally important. Emotionally, this creates a painful cycle. You study hard, then you forget. You start believing that maybe you're just bad at studying. Every forgotten chapter slowly becomes another reason to doubt yourself. Eventually, your nervous system begins associating studying with stress instead of curiosity. And once that happens, learning becomes even harder. Something interesting happens when the brain feels stressed. Instead of focusing on understanding, it shifts into survival mode. Psychologists explain that under stress, your brain becomes more concerned with avoiding failure than absorbing information. You're still reading the words, but your attention is quietly fighting anxiety at the same time. That's why so many students spend hours studying without truly learning. The students who remember the most usually don't have perfect memories. They simply study differently. Instead of asking, "How can I memorize this?" they ask, "Can I explain this to someone else?" They connect new ideas to old ones. They test themselves instead of only rereading. They stay curious instead of chasing perfection. And every time the brain actively uses information, it sends itself a powerful message: this matters. Keep it. So maybe that's the hidden psychology behind memory. Your brain isn't trying to make you fail. It's trying to protect its energy by keeping only what it believes is valuable. The more meaningful, connected, and active your learning becomes, the easier remembering feels. So if you've been forgetting everything you study, stop blaming your intelligence. Stop believing that you're simply bad at learning. Your brain isn't broken. It may just be using the wrong strategy. Because in the end, the strongest memory isn't built by reading something 100 times. It's built when your mind finally understands why that knowledge deserves to stay.